Imagine a world shrouded in the gloom of the 19th century, where hospitals were not sanctuaries of healing, but gateways to death. The air hung thick with the stench of decay, infection ran rampant, and a soldier was more likely to die from a hospital-acquired disease than from a battlefield wound. Into this grim reality stepped a woman armed not with a sword, but with a lantern and an iron will. A woman from a wealthy British family, destined for a life of quiet domesticity, who defied every expectation to answer a calling she believed was from God himself. Her name was Florence Nightingale. But this isn't just the story of the lady with the lamp. This is the story of a revolutionary statistician, a fierce political reformer, and the unlikely architect of modern nursing who battled a stubborn military bureaucracy and the societal constraints of her time to save countless lives and forever change the face of medicine. Florence Nightingale was born in 1820 into a world that had very specific plans for her. As the daughter of a wealthy landowner, her path was clear: attend lavish parties, master the arts of a society hostess, and secure a prosperous marriage. But from a young age, Florence was different. She was intensely studious, with a brilliant mind for mathematics and a deep, unsettling compassion for the suffering she saw around her. While her sister Parthenope reveled in social gatherings, Florence would retreat to her studies or tend to the sick tenants on her family's estate. This divergence caused immense friction. Her parents, particularly her mother Frances, were horrified by her growing interest in nursing, a profession then considered disreputable, fit only for lower-class women. At 17, Florence experienced what she described as a call from God. She believed she was destined for a purpose, though its exact nature was not yet clear. This divine conviction became her North Star, guiding her through years of family opposition and inner turmoil. She repeatedly refused marriage proposals, including one from a man she genuinely cared for, Richard Monckton Milnes. Convinced that marriage would enslave her to domestic duties and prevent her from fulfilling her destiny. For nearly a decade she fought a silent, determined war against her family's wishes, secretly devouring reports on public health and hospital administration. Finally, in her early 30s, Florence broke free. She convinced her father to grant her an allowance, allowing her to pursue her training. In 1851, she traveled to Kaiserswerth, Germany, to study at a pioneering hospital and school for deaconesses. This was her first taste of formal training, and it solidified her resolve. Upon her return, her reputation for efficiency and intelligence grew, and she was appointed superintendent of a hospital for gentlewomen in London. There, she implemented sweeping reforms, improving hygiene and patient care, showcasing the practical power of her ideas. But her quiet revolution in a small London hospital was merely a dress rehearsal for the world stage. In 1853, the Crimean War erupted. Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire were pitted against Russia. Soon, horrifying reports began to filter back to London, not of glorious battles, but of the catastrophic conditions in the military hospitals. The Times newspaper detailed how wounded soldiers were left in filth, without basic medical supplies, decent food, or competent care. The public was outraged. Sidney Herbert, the Secretary at War and a personal friend of the Nightingale family, knew there was only one person with the skill and tenacity for such a monumental task. He wrote to Florence, officially asking her to lead a contingent of nurses to the Crimea. Unbeknownst to him, Florence had already written to him, volunteering her services. Their letters crossed in the post, a fateful coincidence that sealed her destiny. In late 1854, Florence Nightingale and her handpicked team of 38 nurses arrived at the Barrack Hospital in Scutari, across the Bosphorus from Constantinople. The scene that greeted them was a vision from hell. The hospital was built over a massive cesspool, poisoning the very air and water. Men lay on straw pallets in their own filth, their wounds crawling with maggots. Dysentery, cholera, and typhus were more deadly than Russian cannons. There were no blankets, no clean bandages, no soap, no proper food. The Army's medical staff, overworked and wedded to a rigid, inefficient system, were initially hostile, viewing Florence and her nurses as meddling civilians. Undeterred, Florence unleashed a storm of controlled, organized fury. She was a master of logistics. Using funds she had raised, she purchased thousands of scrub brushes and immediately set the least sick patients to work scrubbing the floors and walls. She established a laundry to provide clean linens. She reorganized the kitchen, ensuring patients received nutritious, edible food. She wrote countless letters, reports, and pleas, battling the military's bureaucratic inertia at every turn. And then there were her famous nightly rounds. Long after the doctors had retired, Florence would walk the miles of corridors, lantern in hand, checking on thousands of soldiers. She spoke to them, comforted them, wrote letters home for them, and held their hands as they passed. This simple act of compassion earned her the soldiers' adoration and the immortal title, the Lady with the Lamp. It was a powerful symbol, but her true weapon wasn't the lantern, it was her mind. Florence was a brilliant statistician. She meticulously collected data on mortality rates, and what she discovered was shocking. The vast majority of deaths were not from battle wounds, but from preventable diseases contracted within the hospital. She understood that to convince the stubborn minds in government, she needed more than stories, she needed hard data. She developed a revolutionary new way to present this data. The polar area diagram, a type of pie chart that was incredibly easy to understand. Her charts vividly showed that after her sanitary reforms were implemented, improving ventilation, sewage disposal, and cleanliness, the mortality rate at Scutari plummeted from a staggering 42% to just 2%. When she returned to England after the war, she was a national hero. But Florence shunned the spotlight. She knew her real work had just begun. Suffering from a chronic illness, likely brucellosis contracted in Crimea, which would leave her largely bedridden for the rest of her life, she turned her sick room into a command center for a global health revolution. From her couch, she wielded immense political influence. She met with Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, using her data to push for the creation of a royal commission on the health of the army. The result was a monumental report, filled with her statistics and diagrams that led to a complete overhaul of military and civilian hospitals. She wrote Notes on Nursing, a slim, accessible book that became the cornerstone of nursing curriculum. It wasn't a technical manual, but a guide to common-sense principles, the importance of fresh air, light, cleanliness, and quiet. She argued that nursing was a respectable profession, a secular calling that required intelligence and rigorous training. In 1860, she used the funds raised in her honor to establish the Nightingale Training School at St. Thomas's Hospital in London. This was the first professional nursing school in the world. Florence Nightingale's legacy is so foundational that it's almost invisible. Every time a nurse washes their hands, every time a hospital is designed to maximize fresh air and light, every time a public health official uses statistics to track a disease, they are walking in her footsteps. She was so much more than the gentle lady with the lamp. She was a data scientist before the term existed, a fierce political operative, and a tireless reformer who understood that compassion, to be truly effective, must be armed with evidence, organization, and an unyielding will to fight for change. She redefined the very meaning of care, and her light continues to shine in every corner of modern medicine. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of history's greatest figures. We'll see you in the next one.